select. Okay, Sam, it's time to get your wish true, baby.
Thank you, Mr. Goodell. With the 5th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Football Giants select Kayvon Thibodeaux, defensive end, Oregon.
And we welcome you to Big Blue Draft Night Live, presented by Verizon, live from MetLife Stadium. The New York Giants go with an edge rusher with the 5th overall pick. So glad you can join us. I'm Bob Papa, joined by a couple of Super Bowl champions, Carl Banks, who was the 3rd overall pick in the 1984 draft, and Sean O'Hara, Super Bowl champion by way of Rutgers, who was not drafted.
That's right.
But still won a Super Bowl and was an outstanding player. All right, so the Giants go with edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeaux. All defensive players going in the first 5 picks. Carl, give Giants fans your assessment of Thibodeaux and what he brings to the dance.
All I can say is buckle up, New York. He is a dynamic football player and a dynamic personality, so he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Quick feet, good hands, explosiveness, good lean and flexibility. He's going to be a lot of fun, and this is exactly what Giants defense needs.
Yeah, he's an explosive player, and the one thing that you see when you turn on film, his get-off is unbelievable. Yep. There was a defensive end for the New York Giants that is in the Ring of Honor, O.C. Umenyiora, because of his great get-off. Kayvon Thibodeaux has a special set of skills when it comes to getting at the quarterback. He was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year his freshman year, and the production from him, 19 sacks over 3 seasons. He gets after the quarterback. He's an impact player in the run game as well. For Giants fans, they erupted here in MetLife. The fans are excited, they're pumped. They've been dying for a pass rusher, and now for the Giants, they get somebody on the other side of Azeez Ojulari who can really impact the game on 3rd down.
Carl, and you know, it's been a while since the Giants have had a pass rusher that has presence, has a little pizzazz. They've drafted some guys over the last couple of years, but this guy brings the swagger, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw it with Micah Parsons with the Dallas Cowboys last year. He stepped on the field and said, I'm the man, and then proved it.
Sure.
This kid brings that same sort of attitude.
He does, but the thing that I like about it, he does have a sense of who he is and an understanding of the game, Bob, because I spent an hour and a half with him a week ago, and he talked about the importance of being a closer in the 4th quarter. Not a lot of guys, and I spoke to a lot of them, not a lot of guys understand and have the self-awareness to say, hey, this game is not about how I start, but how I finish for my team.
And you can see right there all these plays he's finishing, and he knows how to celebrate after the fact. We've seen him on effect on the outside. Here he is in space right here. We saw him move down against the guard so he can rush from the inside as well. I think to your point, Carl, this kid, he's an unbelievable gifted athlete, but he's also, he's an outside thinker too. He's got a personality. He's talked a lot about his brand. He's got a great quote. He said, you know, look, his decision to choose Oregon over Alabama, he said, do I want to be a guy who's known as a national championship and that's it, and just a winner, or do I want to be a guy who's known for being a part of the greatest organization in sports? I think he was referring to Nike at the time, but congratulations. Those words came true. You just became a part of the New York Giants, the greatest organization in sports.
Carl, obviously this is a guy that's going to bring an impact to this Giants defense. With Azeez Ojulari coming off a really good rookie season, now you have Thibodeaux on the other side. Gives offensive coordinators something to worry about.
Well, I can tell you this. Wink Martindale gives offensive coordinators something to worry about, and when Wink Martindale has talent, the ability to rush the edges in the middle with blitzers and multiple looks, that is going to be a great situation for this Giant defense.
And really a cool moment, too, with Sam Prince, who was at the Giants facility earlier this week, who's part of the Make-A-Wish program. To be able to make that pick, and he made it so passionately.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of speaking for a lot of Giants fans, like, hey, you know what? We got a guy with a little bit of swagger coming to the Giants, and that's what certainly this Giants defense and this football team need a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah, attitude and energy. That piece that our Giants broadcast team did a great job of capturing that energy. When Joe Schoen told him, you're going to make the pick, he was so fired up, and he delivered on the stage. He's been the most emphatic guy I've seen on the stage in a long time. So for him, look, a great moment. Sam Prince, you delivered. Now Kayvon Thibodeaux, it's your turn.
Giants have another pick coming up, the 7th pick. The Carolina Panthers will be picking 6th, and it's going to be kind of cool to see the war room reaction as we're going to take you inside the war room for the Giants and kind of what it looked like as this draft started to unfold. And Thibodeaux was there on the board, and obviously a lot of fist pumps, and everybody's all fired up. Assistant General Manager Brandon Brown handing out the fist pumps. You see Joe Schoen with his back to the camera right there. Listen, you know, it's a guy that we talked with Joe Schoen about this the other day at something we did with the sponsors. This was not a player that was associated with the Giants,
right.
And that happened so many times.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone had anything from offensive lineman to cornerback, and they just never slotted him in there. And this is an excellent pick. And I can tell you, look, he's going to be dynamic. This is what New York sports will need. He's going to take care of business. I predict that. I believe that he's going to be all about football when it's time to play football, but he's going to be a soundbite a minute. I can tell you that.
Look, we're here in MetLife Stadium, and every time I walk through here and walk through the halls, you do the same thing, Carl. You see the murals painted down there outside the locker room, the Lombardi trophies that are up there. The one common theme with all of those trophy teams, championship teams, is they had guys that get after the quarterback.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that the Giants have always prided themselves on. With Kayvon Thibodeaux, they get a guy that can get after the quarterback on his own. Yeah, sure, Wing Martindale can create some schemes and some pressures, but when you have a guy that can win on his own, he's got great skill, great talent, they're going to improve on that. But this is going to have a ripple effect on this defense. And to your point, look, the Jets were all over Kayvon Thibodeaux. Everybody thought that, you know, he visited them. They thought that the Jets were going to try to swoop in, and sure enough, he ends up falling to the Giants and kind of under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, and this kind of speaks to sort of the oddity of this draft in the fact that when was the last time we had a draft where the first 5 announced picks were all defensive players?
Yeah, and you just kind of felt like when everyone was talking about quarterback, it was a forced conversation. The natural conversations around all of the evaluators were about the defensive players in this draft, from corner to edge to linebacker, and they were just kind of trying to shoehorn a conversation about quarterback in here.
It's funny, the quarterback hasn't been drafted, but yet here we are still talking about quarterback. So it's a quarterback-driven league, and in this draft, it's all about can you get to those quarterbacks, and can you defend them with these corners. So it's still NFL teams saying, look, we've got to find a way to impact the quarterbacks at every single level, and that's why you see the run on the pass rushers and the corners.
Now it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the offensive linemen. None have come off the board yet. The commissioner is getting ready to make the selection or announce the selection for the Carolina Panthers at number 6. They got their pick in pretty good, and they take the tackle Akim Ekwonu from North Carolina State. So, all right, if you're the Giants right now, you start thinking about this. Evan Neal, he's a monster. He comes from Alabama. Similar style of thinking as Coach Dable with the Alabama connection. And he's played a lot of snaps at right tackle. You don't need a left tackle. You need a right one.
So let me say this before Sean takes this over, because he's the expert. The type of offensive lineman depends on the type of scheme you run, right? You may not need the big plow horse. You may need a guy who can move around a little bit. Is that true or false?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Carl, I would say before you make this pick, what are you planning on doing on Sundays? Are you going to throw the ball 45 to 50 times? If you are, take Charles Cross, because that's what he does best. If you're going to run the football 35 times, take Evan Neal, because that's what he does best. To your point, Bob,
well, there's Saquon Barkley still on the Giants.
So I got
Barkley.
Yeah, he can catch.
He can catch as well. But when you look at Dable, it's okay. What do you want this identity to be? for Evan Neal, to your point, he played right tackle 2 years ago. He slid out there. He played left guard as a true freshman at Alabama. And that system down there, the offensive coordinator was Bill O'Brien, right? He had Doug Marrone in there offensively, so you know he can handle the scheme and the concepts. The question with Evan Neal is he athletic enough to stay upright at tackle at the NFL position? Because, you know, as big as he is, the one thing he did struggle with was a little bit of balance, and he was on the ground a little bit. Charles Cross, much better feet. He's much more athletic. The question with him is just, all right, he didn't do a lot of run blocking. There was a lot of zone scheme. There was a lot of pass protection. So that will be something that he will have to work on. I know the Giants did work out Charles Cross, and they worked him out as a right tackle, even though he played left tackle. So I think they like both of these guys. It'll be interesting to see who they take.
Well, you guys bring up a really good point, because if you want to use Daniel Jones' skill set, he's part of the run game. Yeah. Just like Josh Allen was part of the run game in Buffalo, which then kind of leads some breadcrumbs to you're not only trying to draft the best player, but someone that fits into what your vision is moving forward.
And that's important for Thibodeaux. You speak to him, he knows this game is about matchups, about scheme, and about what type of personnel fits the scheme that you want to execute.
So the Giants are on the clock. This pick has not come in as quickly as maybe we thought it would. Could the Giants be on the phone lines right now, entertaining offers?
Yeah,
absolutely. I think right now for Carolina, with who they took, some people had them trading back. Some people had them possibly taking a quarterback. So right now, absolutely, you could have your pick and say, hey, let's hold on to that and just see. Maybe somebody offers us something we can't refuse, because there are still so many good offensive linemen. I'll take Joe Shane. You look at his track record in Buffalo. When he got there with Brandon Beane in 2017, they didn't draft offensive linemen in the first round. They drafted Cody Ford in the second round. Deion Dawkins was already there, second rounder, so they rebuilt that offensive line with some free agents and some second-round picks.
Well, look at the team that you won a Super Bowl with. The highest guy drafted was Chris Snee, who was a second-rounder. Kareem McKenzie was a free agent. I mean, you were a free agent. Rich Seubert was a free agent, and Deal was a fifth-rounder.
Yeah, you don't have to do it all in the first round, but I tell you, if you're sitting there at 7 right now and you know it's definitely something you need.
All right, no trade for the Giants, because according to the NFL, the pick is in, so now we sit and wait. So the Giants had the 5th pick. Kayvon Thibodeaux out of Oregon comes to the Giants, edge rusher. But you got to feel like right now that this is the wheelhouse now to get the offensive lineman again that the Giants believe best fits what they do as a football team.
Bob, as we sit here with Giants fans just behind us, everybody's excited, there's so much energy. If you would have told them before this draft, if they get an edge rusher and a tackle with the 5th and 7th overall pick, I think they would have been ecstatic.
Yes.
All right, John Schmelik has a preview of the next pick.
Giants on the clock at number 7. Kayvon Thibodeaux on number 5. You have to think that they're considering an offensive tackle here. And that was always a part of the strategy. You had 3 left on the board. Even if Carolina takes 1, there are 2 left. So Ike Mekwanu's not there. So the 2 guys that are left are Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Best pure pass protector in this draft. A 2-year starter at left tackle for Mississippi State. Over 1,200 pass protection snaps in Mike Leach's air raid offense. He has great feet, great balance. He's a player that a lot of teams covet and had rated as their top tackle. The other tackle teams may consider, and the Giants will certainly look at, is Alabama's Evan Neal. Monster of a man, 6'7", 337 pounds, but he looks like a 300-pound man. He carries the weight that well. He was on Bruce Feldman's athletic freaks list. He's a great athlete. He can block in the run, block in the passing game. If the Giants don't go offensive tackle, maybe Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, 6'4", 220, big safety, versatile, or wide receiver. All of those are still on the board as well. Bob, back to you.
All right, John, here's Commissioner Roger Goodell with the Giants pick in the draft.
In the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Evan Neal, tackle, Alabama.
What I love about this is
So Evan Neal is the pick. All right, we debated it. He's the pure right tackle. Why do you think the Giants went with Evan Neal?
Well, all things being equal or unequal, the tiebreaker is, can he play right tackle, or do we have to train him to play right tackle? And he's a natural right tackle.
You know, very similar to Andrew Thomas coming out, who played right tackle as a true freshman at Georgia. Evan Neal played right tackle as a sophomore down at Alabama. He played left guard as a true freshman, kicked out to right tackle, then last season kicked out to left tackle. What are the Giants getting in him? As you're watching the movement at the point of attack, look at the movement at the line of scrimmage. When you get a combo block with him, he takes the down lineman into the linebacker level. There you see right down there on the goal line. That's something the Giants have really struggled to do, to punch it in right there. And here's what I'm talking about, the combo block. Look at him just fold that defensive end into the lap of the linebacker. That's exactly what you want from a guy like Evan Neal. Now, durability. All right, he started 40 games down in Alabama. Only missed one game that was due to COVID. Here's what I like the best about him. Physical punch, really long hands, really long arms, just one penalty all of last season. So this is not a guy that's, you know, out of position. He's not a guy that's going to cost you on first or second down with a penalty. Very clean player. I like the pick, and I like the fact that he's played in an NFL-type system. He's seen blitzes, he's seen concepts. Think about the talent he's gone up against in his career, not just in practice, but SEC championship game, he was going against Trayvon Walker in Georgia. National championship game, same thing. And guess what? He more than handled his own against those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They've got to rebuild this offensive line. They've got to make this offensive line better. And now, you know, in 3 years, they've drafted 2 offensive linemen in the first round. And again, Carl, you know Nick Saban. You've been around him. You know, you're getting a guy that is close to pro ready as you could possibly get coming out of that program.
Well, the one thing that we've learned by having Xavier McKinney here is that players out of that system have a very high football IQ. So he's going to understand the game. He's going to understand what it takes to play the position at this level, and he will understand pressure packages because Nick Saban draws him up in the dirt like he's in the sandlot.
I love what this means for Bobby Johnson, the offensive line coach for the New York Giants, because Evan Neal, look, he loves to finish guys here. We're watching him down and getting up to the second level in space. I think the mindset and the culture that they're trying to breed in that offensive line room, Evan Neal is going to bring a certain type of style to that room, a little bit of tenacity, a little swagger, and that's something that they need up front. As you mentioned, look, Saquon Barkley, big year for him, big year for Daniel Jones. So they're finally putting some pieces around those guys that are going to help them bring out their best.
So the Giants with the 5th pick take Thibodeaux out of Oregon. With the 7th pick, they take Neal. They address 2 major issues. And, you know, listen, the word reach, that's an overused word because the only people that say teams reach are people that have their board stacked differently.
Sure.
But for the Giants, they got players that they wanted. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how Neal fits into this offense. And I guess some of the tell here is that they want to be versatile with what they do offensively. Because the one knock on Brian Daboll as a play caller in Buffalo was sometimes they got away from the run a little bit too much. And with Saquon Barkley there, it's something you're going to have to stick with.
Well, here's one thing
you didn't have Saquon Barkley in Buffalo.
Alabama got away from the run too, and they entered into modern day football, and they produced some of the best pass catchers. So they had to have pass protectors.
Well, I'll tell you, Brian Daboll's not in this building right here. He's just across the parking lot. But if he was here right now and he could feel this wind, he would say, we're going to run the damn football because I'm not going to ask my quarterback to deal with this 35-mile-an-hour gust right now. I think for Evan Neal, it's a great situation for him coming into this room. I mentioned Bobby Johnson, the offensive line coach. I think he's going to do a great job of assimilating him to the group. But you're also going to put him next to Mark Glowinski, who's a veteran offensive lineman that Joe Shane brought in, picked him up from the Indianapolis Colts. So you've got a veteran voice next to him who could help him out. You've got John Feliciano, a veteran who's going to be at center. So Evan Neal, he's going to have guys that can help him mentally figure out things technique-wise. He's got a great coach, and he's got great veterans to help him out with the little innuendos that you have to learn when you get to the NFL level.
Well, so far, no trades. Everyone was talking about, oh, there's going to be trades, there's going to be a lot of movement, but teams have seen players that they like, and they just start taking them off the board. So it's kind of interesting. And remember, this is a 7+ round draft. Like, this isn't the end-all, be-all. There's a lot of good players in this draft. I say 7+ because with all the supplemental picks, it basically is an 8-round draft.
Well, it tells us that they feel that the bulk of the talent is in the second half of the draft or after this first round, because there's nobody jumping out the window to get anyone. They're like, okay, I like this guy. If he's there for me, I'm taking him. There's just, like, this is the first time in a few drafts that nothing has happened in the top 5 picks.
Yeah, and for the Giants, this draft actually shapes up really well because it's very, very loaded in pass rushers, loaded in tackles and offensive linemen, loaded in receivers. So to your point in the second round, they can still get another great player who would also happen to fill a need. I think when you look at the Giants right now, to have gotten one of the best pass rushers in this draft, the Kayvon Thibodeaux, and possibly the best tackle in this entire draft. When I went to the Combine back in March, Evan Neal didn't work out. And one of the reasons why is because everybody had him slated. They said, you might be the #1 pick. So when you look at it like that, the Giants technically got what could have been the #1 overall pick. Jacksonville very well was thinking about taking Evan Neal. They got him at 7th overall. I think you've got to be ecstatic right now if you're the Giants ownership, if you're Joe Schoen, if you're Brian Dable, and certainly if you're Giants fans right now, you're excited about the future.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, this is a team that's missed the playoffs each of the last 5 years. You know, they've missed on a lot of draft picks with previous regimes. You know, guys haven't gotten second contracts that were first-round draft picks. I mean, Odell got a second contract, but then he was traded. JPP's really the last first-round pick to get a second contract. So this is such a critical draft as far as the cornerstone of building a foundation for this regime's future.
Sure, and the thing about it is getting good players that you can keep on rookie contracts so that you don't have to go reach and deplete your salary cap, so you can't resign the players that you need to resign. So getting good players as your foundation on rookie deals, meaning you don't have to reach after year 2 or 3 saying we have no help anywhere. We just got to overpay for someone.
And I think when you look at the Giants too, you know, a lot of times people say, well, we drafted a really good guy. Well, is he a better player in year 3 or year 4? And to your point about second contracts, but the part of it, the draft process is once you get the guy, are you grooming him? Are you making him better? I think when you look at the coaching staff, when you look at what Brian Dable helped build up in Buffalo, they grew those players. A lot of those players were second-round picks, late-round picks. Sure, they got Josh Allen and Tremaine Edmonds in the first round, Tre'Davious White as well, but a lot of that team was built through the later rounds of the draft. They groomed those players. They got them better. Wink Martindale, you mentioned it before. Look at what he did with guys like Matt Judon down in Baltimore, Zadarius Smith, guys that weren't household names, and yet he was able to groom them, and he was able to make them better football players and help them hone their craft.
So the Giants with the 5th overall pick in the draft get Kayvon Thibodeaux out of Oregon, pass rusher, guy with swagger, and then you know, Evan Neal gets drafted with the 7th overall pick. You know, Joe Schoen had a comment to the media, and a public comment of, you know, after this first night of the draft, I want to be able to sleep easy.
There you go.
I got a sense that he's going to be able to sleep easy, although my guess is when you have that job, you're already thinking about next.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt he's thinking about tomorrow, and really, you know, the picks are in, but now he's got to sit around and look at, all right, who's getting bypassed? Who's available? What are we doing? Sure. Is there somebody all of a sudden that's sitting there at 30, 31, 32 that we feel like, man, we need to jump on? You were talking about cost certainty and how drafting a guy in the first round, you get the 5th-year option. So, you know, look, keep an eye. The Giants might not be done here. If all of a sudden there's a player that they had a first-round grade on really high up, and he's sitting there at 31st pick, 32nd pick. The Chiefs have 2 picks there at the end. They could easily say, look, we want to move up in there, and now we have the opportunity to have that guy for 5 years, whereas opposed we get him in the second round, it's just 4 years.
And listen, the Giants may not be done with offensive linemen, right? I mean, there's some more depth in this draft. You know, maybe even a center.
Yeah, a couple of centers out there. When you think about, you know, the center from Iowa, he's out there, Tyler Lindenbaum. I think when you look at Cam Jurgens in Nebraska, those are both a couple of studs. Obviously, Lindenbaum, you know, he was the Remington Award winner for the best center in the nation. Just a technician, just unbelievable hands, great technique. He would be a plug-and-play guy, and he would be your future guy. Obviously, with John Feliciano, he'll be the veteran Week 1 starter. But no doubt there's some other tackles out there, too, so they may not be done with that either.
And look, there's a linebacker still on the board, too.
I was going to ask you that, Carl, like as we look ahead in this draft, from a defensive standpoint, I mean, right now the Giants really only have 2 safeties on the roster, Xavier McKinney and Julian Love. I got to think that's an area they're going to look at. I think wide receiver is an area they have to look at with Sterling Shepard coming off an injury.
Corner, too. Corner, absolutely. You can't have enough.
There's plenty of inventory on the board now, and the Giants at 32 will have a pretty good lot to pick from.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of those situations, too, with the whole Bradbury situation hanging over, the franchise. What are they going to do about this contract? Is he going to be on the football team? And Carl, speak to Wink Martindale's defense and the fact that there is a premium on that position to run his scheme effectively.
Look, I believe if the Giants could figure out financially how to keep James Bradbury, they will, because he is, with him and Adoree Jackson together, will give Wink Martindale great flexibility. Not having him and having to bring another corner up to speed can be a little different. So it's a luxury to have Bradbury. I don't know if it's a necessity because of their salary cap situation, but I think they would love to keep him. And the fact that, nobody's jumping to get him in a trade tells me that there's a chance he could they could figure it out.
Yeah, I think for Bradbury, no doubt about it, any type of move on him is purely economical. It's not because of talent. He's a stud player at corner. He's also become a veteran leader in the locker room, helping out some of the young guys. So if they move on from him, it's purely about the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, but it also, too, is about style, right? Because he's 29 years age, so you could rip up his deal and extend him if you think he's part of your long-term future to lower that cap number. That's why with the fifth-year option thing with Dexter Lawrence, I was talking this morning on my radio show, and I said, we're going to find out at some point between now and Monday if Don Wink Martindale thinks that Dexter Lawrence is a fit in his defense.
Sure.
If he doesn't think he's a fit, they're going to pass on the fifth-year option because the number on that is not a high number.
Right.
And basically what they said to you is Don Wink Martindale thinks that he can make Dexter Lawrence even a better player. Let's pick it up.
Calais Campbell. Look, and they're two different players, but Calais Campbell wasn't the same player in Arizona as he was in Baltimore under Wink. It's just, he creates disruption, and I think that Dexter could end up playing nose tackle in this defense and having a great rest of his career.
Yeah, that's where I see a great fit with this defense. Look, Wink Martindale, I think years ago you might say he's a 3-4 scheme. Now everybody's kind of doing the hybrid stuff. They run the 3-4 defense on first and second down, and on fourth down you get an even front. So no doubt about it, Sexy Dexy could move over to nose tackle, where I think he might actually be more dangerous because he's quicker than people think. At a guy his size, he's got great change of direction, great lateral quickness, and now you put him over the center and you ask him to handle both A-gaps. That's something that he could absolutely handle.
All right, let's take a look at the Giants coverage on all the Giants media platforms of what's coming up for the rest of the weekend. Big Blue Draft Night Live presented by Verizon comes your way Friday after each and every Giants pick. And make sure you join John Schmelk and the gang for Big Blue Kickoff Live on Friday at noon Eastern. It's a 2-hour installment. Saturday, they'll give you 2 hours from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Giants.com, Giants TV, the Giants mobile app. Big Blue Draft Night Live presented by Verizon, also on the Giants YouTube channel. Joe Shane and Brian Dable have made their first picks as the head coach and general manager of the Giants. Let's listen into their press conference.
All right, just first start off, we're ecstatic with the two players we got. Obviously, getting Kayvon Thibodeaux, a really good pass rusher at 5. We're excited about that. The thought of, getting him there with Aziz on the other side, and the pass rush is important to us. So, 2 young pass rushers on the team now. That we're definitely excited about. And then Evan Neal, again, I'm sure it'll come up, but starting off, we're going to put him at right tackle. Obviously, we really like his versatility. 40 career starts at 3 different spots in the SEC. Only missed 1 game in his career with COVID. So both 21 years old, young players, both still have upside, to develop. But, worked out great. We're happy with both the players that we were able to procure